My name is Abram, 32 years old, and I have always been the black sheep in a family that values conformity above all else. For years I convinced myself that my mother's cold shoulder was just her way of showing tough love. But that night at my sister's rehearsal dinner, when I stood plateless, while everyone else ate the truth couldn't be denied anymore. Before I tell you how I went from hopeful brother to disinherited family member in one dinner, let me know where you're watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button. The ending of this story might teach you something about standing up for yourself. Growing up in the affluent neighborhood of Westchester County, New York, our family name carried weight. The Mitchell family was known for its successful investment firm, now in its third generation. I was the second child, born 4 years after my sister Cassandra. From my earliest memories, it was clear our mother Rebecca had different standards for us. Where Cassandra received praise for a B+, I received silence for an A-. Where she got comfort for skinned knees, I got lectures about being more careful. My father Walter was different, quieter, more reserved, but with occasional moments of warmth that I clung to. He would slip into my room late at night after work trips, bringing small architecture models from cities he'd visited, knowing my fascination with buildings even as a child. "Your eyes light up when you see these," he once said, in a way I never see at family gatherings. Yet he never confronted my mother about her treatment of me retreating to his study whenever tension rose. Our house was immaculate, a colonial-style mansion with 6 bedrooms, a swimming pool, and a carefully manicured garden that hosted summer parties for the local elite. But the perfection was superficial. Inside those walls, I learned early that I somehow didn't measure up to the Mitchell standard. Abram lacks the natural business instinct, my mother would tell guests even as I sat within earshot. Cassandra, though, she has her grandfather's mind for investments. By 13, I had learned to eat quickly and excuse myself from family dinners. School became my refuge. I threw myself into academics and found freedom in the architecture club. When I was accepted to Cornell's architecture program, instead of following the expected path to Wharton for business, like my father, grandfather, and sister before me, my mother didn't speak to me for 3 months. "You're throwing away generations of legacy," she said when she finally addressed my choice. "Your grandfather would be so disappointed." Despite this, I excelled at Cornell, graduated with honors, and secured a position at a prestigious firm in Manhattan. By 30, I had led the design of 2 award-winning commercial buildings and started my own boutique firm. Trade magazines featured my work. Clients sought me out specifically. None of this impressed my mother. At family gatherings, my accomplishments went unacknowledged, while Cassandra's promotion to junior partner at Mitchell Investments was celebrated with champagne and catered dinners. I made periodic attempts to bridge the gap. I sent my mother tickets to my first building's opening gala. She sent them back with a note claiming a prior commitment. I called monthly conversations that rarely lasted more than 5 minutes. I sent thoughtful birthday and Christmas gifts, receiving only formal thank you cards in return, likely written by her assistant. When Cassandra called to announce her engagement to Tyler Wellington, son of another prominent family in finance, I congratulated her sincerely. We had maintained a cordial, if distant, relationship. She wasn't unkind, just caught in our mother's orbit, careful not to defy the family hierarchy. "The wedding's going to be huge," she told me, excitement in her voice. "Tyler's family knows everyone. Mom's already talked to planners at the plaza." "Sounds perfect for you, Cass," I said, genuinely happy for her. "Let me know how I can help." There was a pause on the line. "Actually, about that. The budget is getting out of hand. Mom and Dad are covering most of it, but with the guest list over 300 people now." I understood immediately. "I'd be happy to contribute, Cass. Just let me know what would help." The relief in her voice was palpable. "Really? That would be amazing, Abram. Maybe you could cover the floral arrangements. The designer Mom wants is asking $50,000. The sum was substantial, but I could afford it. More importantly, I saw an opportunity. Perhaps this gesture would finally prove to my mother that I was successful in my own right and worthy of her respect. Perhaps this family celebration could be the beginning of healing. "Consider it done," I told Cassandra. "Send me the details and I'll transfer the funds." In the months leading up to the wedding, communication increased. Cassandra sent photos of venues, dresses, and flower arrangements. I was copied on group emails about schedules and accommodations. For the first time in years, I felt included in family matters. The night before I left for the rehearsal dinner, I called my father. "I'm looking forward to seeing everyone tomorrow," I said, trying to gauge what reception awaited me. "It'll be good to have you there, son," he replied, his voice warm but tired. "It's been too long." "How's Mom feeling about the wedding preparations?" I asked cautiously. A pause. "You know your mother. Nothing is ever perfect enough, but she's pleased with how it's all coming together." "And about me being there?" Another pause, longer this time. "Just, maybe give her space, Abram. This is Cassandra's time to shine." I should have recognized the warning in his words, but I was too focused on the hope of reconciliation. The Westchester Country Club gleamed with old-money elegance as I pulled my Audi into the circular driveway. Valets in crisp uniforms stood at attention, and string lights twinkled in the early evening air. I straightened my custom navy suit, one of my best designs created in collaboration with a tailor friend, and took a deep breath. Inside, the private dining room buzzed with conversation. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over round tables draped in ivory linens. Centerpieces of white roses and hydrangeas rose from silver vases, and the bar in the corner was staffed by 3 bartenders serving top-shelf liquor. I spotted my mother immediately. At 63, Rebecca Mitchell still commanded attention. Her silver hair was styled in an immaculate bob, her posture perfect as she greeted guests in a designer dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. She laughed and touched arms with the Wellington family, Tyler's parents, grandparents, and various aunts and uncles who had flown in for the occasion. Before approaching her, I circled the room saying hello to distant relatives I hadn't seen in years. "Abram, my goodness, you've grown up," my father's cousin, Patricia, exclaimed. "What are you doing these days?" "Still drawing buildings." Her tone was pleasant but dismissive. "I own an architecture firm in the city now," I replied. "We just completed a commission for the new Thompson Media headquarters." "How nice," she said, already looking past me to wave at someone else. This pattern repeated with several relatives. Brief greetings, minimal interest in my life. Quick exits to speak with more favored family members. I maintained my smile and made my way to the bar for a scotch. As I waited for my drink, I finally caught sight of Cassandra. She looked radiant in a white cocktail dress, her dark hair, so like our mother's before the gray, falling in soft waves. When she saw me, her face brightened genuinely. "Abram, you made it." She embraced me warmly, pulling back to look at me. "You look great. City life must be treating you well." "You're the one who looks amazing," I told her. "Happiness suits you." "Come meet Tyler's family properly," she said, linking her arm through mine. "His parents are eager to meet all the Mitchells." Tyler Wellington was tall and athletic, with an easy smile that seemed sincere. His handshake was firm. "Cassandra talks about you all the time," he said. "Says you're the creative genius in the family." Hardly I laughed, surprised by this characterization, but I do love what I do. "That Thompson building downtown is impressive," he continued. "My firm looked at leasing space there until we expanded our current offices instead." I blinked, caught off guard by his knowledge of my work. "You're familiar with it?" "Of course. It's been in all the architectural reviews. The sustainable elements while maintaining that classic New York aesthetic, really impressive work." His father joined us, a distinguished man with salt and pepper hair and intelligent eyes. "Tyler tells me, you're the architect in the family. Always admired people who can create something from nothing. We just move money around." He laughed good-naturedly. For a few minutes we discussed the current commercial real estate trends in Manhattan. The conversation flowed easily until I felt a presence behind me. "Rebecca, there you are, Mr. Wellington," said, looking over my shoulder. "Your son was just educating us about the Manhattan skyline." I turned to face my mother, offering a smile. "Hello, Mom." Her eyes moved over me critically before she nodded slightly. "Abram, I see you found the bar already." She turned to the Wellingtons. "Thomas, Margaret, have you seen the terrace? The view of the golf course at sunset is spectacular." And just like that, I was dismissed as she led them away. The dinner bell rang shortly after, and guests began finding their assigned seats. I scanned the place cards looking for my name. eventually finding it at a table far from the main family section, seated with distant cousins and friends of the Wellingtons I'd never met. As I took my seat, I overheard one of Tyler's aunts whispering to her husband. "I thought the brother wasn't coming. Rebecca told Margaret he was estranged or something. Last-minute addition, I guess," her husband replied with a shrug. The waiters began serving the first course, a delicate lobster bisque with truffle oil, to everyone at my table. Then they moved to the next table and the next. I waited, assuming they were working their way around the room, but as the last table was served, my place setting remained empty. I caught the eye of a waiter passing with water refills. "Excuse me, I think I was missed for the first course." The young man looked uncomfortable. "Let me check on that for you, sir." He disappeared into the kitchen, returning moments later with an even more uncomfortable expression. "I'm sorry, sir. I need to speak with Mrs. Mitchell about this. Excuse me." I watched as he approached my mother, leaned down to whisper something, and gestured subtly in my direction. She shook her head firmly and whispered something back. The waiter nodded, his face flushing, and returned to the kitchen without looking my way. Around me, people ate and chatted, while my empty place setting stood out like a sore thumb. The woman to my left gave me a curious glance but continued her conversation with the man on her other side. After 10 minutes of this humiliation, I stood and walked directly to the main table where my parents, Cassandra, Tyler, and his parents were seated. Everyone had nearly finished their soup. "Is there a problem with my meal?" I asked, looking directly at my mother. She looked up, her expression perfectly composed, except for the slight curl at the corner of her mouth. "I only ordered for family," she said, her voice low but clear enough for those nearby to hear. The table fell silent. Tyler's parents exchanged glances. My father suddenly became very interested in his napkin. "Am I family or not?" I asked, keeping my voice steady despite the heat rising in my face. "Don't do this. Not here," she muttered, still chewing her last spoonful of soup. Cassandra looked stricken. "Mom, what's going on?" "Of course Abram should have dinner." "There must be some mistake with the catering," Tyler's mother suggested kindly. "I'm sure it can be fixed." My mother's smile tightened. "No mistake. Just a miscommunication about the final guest count." She signaled to a nearby waiter. "Please bring a setting for my son. It seems we have an unexpected addition." The damage was done. The words "unexpected addition" hung in the air, making it clear I wasn't supposed to be there. I stood frozen for a moment, dignity warring with hurt. "Abram, please sit down," my father finally spoke. "The waiter will bring your food." But I couldn't play along anymore. "Excuse me," I said, turning away from the table. "I need some air." The night air hit my face as I stepped onto the terrace, my hands shaking slightly as I braced them against the stone railing. Inside, the dinner continued. The gentle clink of silverware, the murmur of conversation, the occasional burst of laughter. Out here, crickets chirped in the manicured gardens, and a fountain bubbled nearby, sounds that should have been soothing but only highlighted my isolation. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to find the contact information for Maxwell Jenkins, the wedding planner Cassandra had been working with. I had his number from the group emails about flower arrangements and delivery schedules. After 3 rings, he answered. "Maxwell Jenkins speaking." "Maxwell, this is Abram Mitchell, Cassandra's brother." "Oh, Mr. Mitchell. Is everything all right with the rehearsal dinner?" His voice held professional concern. "Actually, no. There seems to be some confusion about my invitation. I just discovered I wasn't expected at the dinner, and apparently won't have a place at the wedding either." There was a long pause. I'm not sure what to say, Mr. Mitchell. This is awkward. Just tell me what you know," I said, my stomach tightening with dread. He cleared his throat. "Your mother specifically instructed us to remove you from all guest lists 3 weeks ago. She said there had been a family disagreement, and you wouldn't be attending." The revelation knocked the wind from me. 3 weeks ago, right after I had transferred the $50,000 for the flowers, and my contribution to the wedding, the payment for the floral arrangements. Another uncomfortable pause. I was told that was still being provided as a gift regardless of attendance. The contract specified non-refundable deposits, and everything has been ordered and scheduled for delivery. So my family canceled my invitation, But my $50K deposit stays, I said flatly. I'm very sorry, Mr. Mitchell. I assumed this was all agreed upon within the family. I thanked him for his honesty and ended the call, the pieces falling into place with sickening clarity. My inclusion in wedding emails, my sister's increased communication. It had all been to secure my financial contribution, not to mend family ties. The door to the terrace opened behind me. I turned to see Cassandra, her expression a mixture of concern and guilt. Abram, are you okay? Mom said there was a misunderstanding with the caterer, but they're bringing your dinner now. I studied my sister's face, searching for signs of complicity. Did you know I wasn't supposed to be here tonight, Cass? Did you know Mom removed me from the guest lists? Her eyes widened, then darted away. She said, you might be too busy with work to attend all the events, so we shouldn't count on you for everything. But you made sure I knew about the $50,000 flowers, right? The words came out sharper than I intended. Color flooded her cheeks. That's not fair. I wanted you here. I told Mom we needed to include you. But you didn't fight her on it, did you? You let her take my money and plan to exclude me. It's complicated, Abram. You know how she gets. The wedding is in 2 days, and everything has to be perfect, or she'll make everyone miserable. Tears welled in her eyes. Please don't make a scene. Not tonight. I laughed bitterly. Make a scene? Mom is the one who deliberately humiliated me in front of everyone by not even ordering me dinner. The door opened again, and Tyler stepped out, concern etched on his face. Everything okay out here? Cassandra quickly wiped her eyes. It's fine. Just a family thing. It's not fine, I said, turning to Tyler. Did you know your future mother-in-law uninvited me from your wedding after taking my money for the flowers? Tyler's expression shifted from concern to shock. What? No, that's not possible. Cassandra and I approved the final guest list together. I looked back at my sister, whose face now showed guilt and fear in equal measure. Mom made some last-minute changes, she admitted quietly. She said she would handle it. Tyler's jaw tightened. And you didn't tell me, Cassandra, we talked about this. Your mother doesn't get to control everything. Inside, I could see movement through the windows. The main course was being served. My mother sat regally at the center table, holding court as if nothing was amiss. 32 years of dismissal and disrespect crystallized in that moment. I had spent my life seeking approval from someone incapable of giving it, making excuses for cruelty disguised as high standards. I'm done, I said, my decision suddenly clear. I'm not going to sit through another minute of this pretense. Abram, please, Cassandra pleaded. What are you going to do? What I should have done years ago. Stop accepting scraps of affection and recognize that Mom will never see me as good enough. I walked past them back into the dining room, where conversations hushed momentarily as people noticed my return. My mother's eyes tracked me, narrowing with suspicion as I approached the small podium where the best man had given his toast earlier. Excuse me, everyone, I said, my voice carrying across the room. I apologize for the interruption, but I have an announcement to make. The room fell silent, all eyes turning toward me. My mother's face tightened with fury, while my father looked resigned. Cassandra and Tyler hurried back inside, stopping just inside the doorway. First, I want to congratulate my sister Cassandra and her fiancé Tyler on their upcoming wedding. I truly wish you both every happiness. I raised my water glass toward them, and others automatically did the same. However, I've just discovered something that I feel should be addressed. 3 weeks ago, after I contributed $50,000 to this wedding for the floral arrangements, my mother removed me from the guest lists without my knowledge. Murmurs rippled through the room. Tyler's parents exchanged alarmed glances. Tonight was simply the culmination of a lifetime of being treated as less than family. When I asked why I wasn't served dinner, my mother stated, and I quote, "I only ordered for family." That's enough, Abram, my mother cut in sharply, half rising from her seat. No, Rebecca, let him speak, Tyler's father said firmly, surprising everyone. I want to hear this. My mother sank back into her chair, her face a mask of controlled rage. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. I have here years of attempts to be part of this family. Invitations to important events in my life that were declined. Congratulatory emails about my professional achievements that went unanswered. Monthly calls that lasted less than 5 minutes. I began reading excerpts. The 12th of December, 2019. Mom and Dad, I'm honored to invite you to the opening gala for the Thompson Media, building my first major project as lead architect. It would mean the world to have you there. The response dated the same day. Abram, we have a prior commitment that evening. Perhaps another time. Mother. The 3rd of June 2020. Mom, my building just won the Urban Design Award. Thought you might want to know. No response was ever received. The 14th of February, 2021. Dad, I left you a voicemail about getting lunch next week. Let me know if Tuesday works. His response, your mother has planned a charity luncheon that day. Another time. I looked up from my phone to see uncomfortable expressions throughout the room. Cassandra was openly crying now, Tyler's arm around her shoulders. I've spent my life trying to earn a place in this family, believing that if I was successful enough, accomplished enough, generous enough, I would finally be accepted. Tonight has shown me the futility of that hope. I put my phone away and straightened my shoulders. So I'll make this simple. I won't be attending the wedding. My gift of the floral arrangement stands. Consider it my final attempt at being a good brother and son. But I will no longer subject myself to this treatment. I turned to face the Wellington family directly. I apologize that you've been drawn into this family drama. Please know that this reflects only on the dynamics of the Mitchell family, not on Cassandra and Tyler's relationship, which I believe is genuine and loving. As I stepped away from the podium, Tyler moved forward, his expression resolute. Actually, I have something to say too, he announced, his voice steady. Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, I respect you as Cassandra's parents, but what I've witnessed tonight is unacceptable. Abram is not only Cassandra's brother, he's an accomplished professional who deserves basic respect. My mother's face had gone from rage to shock. This was clearly not the response she had expected from her future son-in-law. Tyler, she began, her voice honey-sweet. You don't understand our family history. I understand enough, he replied firmly. And I need to be clear. If Abram isn't welcome at our wedding, then perhaps we need to reconsider having the wedding at all. The room erupted in whispers. Cassandra moved to Tyler's side, taking his hand in a show of solidarity that sent a clear message. Now let's all calm down, my father finally spoke up, his voice faltering. This is a celebration. Let's not ruin it with old grievances. Old grievances, I echoed. Dad, this happened tonight. It's happening right now. I turned and walked toward the exit, dignity intact, but heartbreaking all over again. As I reached the door, I heard Tyler's mother's clear voice. Rebecca, I think we need to have a serious conversation about Saturday. The hallway outside the dining room was mercifully empty, as I leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. Part of me wanted to keep walking, to my car, back to my apartment in the city, away from the decades of rejection. But something held me in place, perhaps the lingering hope that this confrontation might finally force change. The door opened, and Tyler's father, Thomas, emerged, his expression grave but determined. Abram, would you join us back inside? There are some things that need to be addressed as a family. I hesitated. With all due respect, Mr. Wellington, I've said what I needed to say. I understand. But I think you'll want to hear this. He held the door open, waiting. Against my better judgment, I followed him back into the dining room. The atmosphere had completely transformed. The elegant celebration had given way to tense silence. Many guests looked uncomfortable, some whispering behind their hands. At the main table, my mother sat rigidly, her perfect posture now seeming brittle rather than regal. My father looked deflated, smaller somehow. Cassandra and Tyler stood together, their hands still linked. Tyler's mother, Margaret, sat beside my mother, her expression coolly professional, the face of someone used to difficult negotiations. Thomas guided me to an empty chair that had been added to the main table, directly across from my mother. As I sat, I noticed my place now had a full dinner setting and a plate of food, though I had no appetite. Rebecca, Margaret began, her voice calm but firm as parents of the groom. Thomas and I feel we need to address what's happened tonight. My mother's smile was tight. A simple misunderstanding blown out of proportion. Abram has always been sensitive. What I witnessed wasn't a misunderstanding, Thomas said. It was deliberate exclusion of your son, followed by an attempt to dismiss his legitimate concerns. Our families are about to be joined, Margaret continued. We need to be clear about our values. In our family, we don't treat people this way, especially not our children. Tyler cleared his throat. Cassandra and I have talked, and we want Abram at our wedding. Not just present, but included, as family should be. My sister nodded, finally finding her voice. Mom, what you did tonight was cruel, and it's not the first time. I've watched how you treat Abram for years, and I've been too afraid to say anything. Afraid, our mother scoffed. Of what exactly? Of becoming the target instead, Cassandra said quietly. Of losing your approval. Of being treated the way you treat him. The truth of her words hung in the air. For the first time, I saw my sister not as my mother's ally, but as another victim of her manipulation. One who had found a different coping strategy than mine. I have only ever wanted what's best for this family, my mother insisted, looking around for support. Everything I've done has been to uphold the Mitchell name. By taking my money for the wedding while planning to exclude me, I asked, unable to keep the hurt from my voice. How does that uphold anything, except your own control? The flowers were your gift to your sister, she snapped. Your attendance is a separate matter entirely. Rebecca, my father finally spoke, his voice uncharacteristically firm. This has gone too far. She turned to him, surprised by his intervention. Walter, stay out of this. Number. The single word seemed to cost him enormous effort. I've stayed out of it for too long. What you did tonight was wrong. What you've done to Abram for years has been wrong. The room was utterly silent now, everyone witnessing a family imploding in real time. You all think I'm the villain, my mother said, her voice trembling slightly. Whether with rage or emotion, I couldn't tell. But I've only ever pushed for excellence. Abram chose to reject our family legacy, to go his own way against generations of tradition. I chose a different career, I corrected her. Not a different family. You're the one who made that choice. Thomas Wellington cleared his throat. I think we need to establish some parameters for moving forward. The wedding is in 2 days. Decisions need to be made tonight. There's nothing to decide, my mother insisted. The arrangements are final. Actually, Tyler said they're not. Cassandra and I are prepared to postpone the wedding if necessary. This sent another shockwave through the room. My mother's composure finally cracked. You can't be serious. Everything is paid for, guests are arriving from across the country. Then I suggest we find a solution, Margaret said calmly. One that includes Abram as a welcomed and respected member of the family. I looked at my sister, seeing real remorse in her eyes. I'm sorry, Abram. I should have stood up for you years ago. Something shifted inside me, a loosening of an old tight knot. For the first time, I felt truly seen by a member of my family. What do you want, Cassandra? I asked gently. It's your wedding. She took a deep breath. I want my brother there, not just as a guest, but standing beside me. In fact, she looked at Tyler, who nodded encouragingly. I'd like you to be my man of honor, Abram. Not just a groomsman or guest. My mother made a choked sound. That's not traditional. The maid of honor is supposed to be. It's our wedding, Tyler interrupted firmly, and we decide who stands where. I was stunned by the offer. Are you sure? More sure than I've ever been about anything in this family, Cassandra said, a new strength in her voice. It's time to break some unhealthy patterns. My father reached across the table, and for the first time in years, placed his hand over mine. I think it's a wonderful idea, long overdue. The tide had turned. Even my mother could feel it, looking around at the united front facing her. She was losing control of the narrative she had crafted for decades. Fine, she said tightly. If that's what you want, Cassandra. It is my sister, confirmed. And one more thing. Abram's invitation wasn't the only one you changed without telling us. We'll need the original guest list restored. My mother's eyes widened slightly. Apparently, Cassandra knew about other manipulations I wasn't even aware of. Thomas raised his glass. Then I believe we have a resolution. To family, in all its complicated forms. Others around the room cautiously raised their glasses, the tension slowly dissipating as conversations resumed. The crisis had passed, but the dynamics had fundamentally shifted. As dinner continued, Tyler leaned over to me. "For what it's worth, I've been following your career for years. Your work on sustainable urban design is revolutionary. I'm honored to have you as a brother-in-law." For the first time that evening, I felt a genuine smile form. "Thank you. That means more than you know." Across the table, my mother maintained her composure, but I could see the calculations happening behind her eyes. She had lost this battle, but I knew her well enough to know she wouldn't surrender the war easily. Still, something profound had changed. I was no longer standing alone. After the rehearsal dinner finally ended, I retreated to my hotel room emotionally drained but strangely peaceful. The confrontation I had avoided for decades had finally happened, and while painful, it had been oddly freeing. I loosened my tie and poured myself a drink from the minibar, replaying the evening's events in my mind. My phone buzzed with a text from Cassandra. "Can we talk? Tyler and I are in the lobby." I hesitated only briefly before responding, "Room 712. A few minutes later, a soft knock announced their arrival. When I opened the door, Cassandra's eyes were red from crying, but she seemed calmer now. Tyler stood slightly behind her, his expression a mixture of concern and determination. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. Cassandra immediately embraced me, holding on tightly. "I'm so sorry, Abram. I've been such a coward." I returned the hug, surprised by how much I needed it. "You were surviving the only way you knew how." We moved to the sitting area of the suite. Cassandra perched on the edge of the sofa while Tyler took the armchair, leaving me the desk chair. I knew some of what Mom was doing. Cassandra admitted, her voice small. "Not everything, but enough that I should have spoken up." "Why didn't you?" I asked, not accusingly, but genuinely curious. She twisted her engagement ring nervously. "At first, when we were kids, I didn't understand it. By the time I realized how unfairly she treated you, I was terrified of losing her approval. Being the favorite comes with its own prison, Abram. One wrong move and I could have been in your position. She's been manipulating both of us, just in different ways," I realized aloud. Tyler leaned forward. "When Cassandra and I started dating seriously, she would sometimes share stories about growing up. I noticed she always got quiet when talking about you, like there was something she wasn't saying. I told him everything last year," Cassandra continued. "About how Mom would praise me to tear you down. How she would rewrite family history to make you the problem. How Dad would never contradict her." "And what did you think?" I asked Tyler. "Honestly, that it sounded like textbook emotional abuse," he replied straightforwardly. "My mother worked in family therapy before joining my dad's business. The patterns were clear." I took a long sip of my drink, letting that assessment sink in. Abuse was a word I had never applied to my situation, but hearing it spoken aloud resonated with a truth I had long denied. "When you offered to pay for the flowers, I should have refused," Cassandra said, tears threatening again. "But Mom had already gone over budget, and she made it seem like you wanted to contribute. Did she tell you she was planning to uninvite me?" Cassandra shook her head. "Not directly. About 3 weeks ago, she mentioned that you seemed too busy with work to attend all the events and that we should be prepared for you to miss some things. Then the revised guest lists came, and I noticed some other changes too. Friends of mine she never approved of were suddenly missing, replaced with her social circle contacts." "What other changes did she make without telling you?" I asked, recalling Cassandra's comment at dinner. She exchanged a glance with Tyler. "She uninvited my college roommate Lisa because she has visible tattoos. She added 3 business associates of Dad's who I've never even met. She changed the menu after we had already approved it. She tried to switch the band for a string quartet last week, but the wedding planner finally put his foot down." Tyler squeezed her hand supportively. "We've been fighting small battles for months, but tonight was the breaking point. What she did to you was inexcusable." "The question is, what happens now?" I asked. "The wedding is in 2 days." "I meant what I said about wanting you as my man of honor," Cassandra said firmly. "My original maid of honor, Rachel, will understand. She's witnessed Mom's treatment of you for years and has been telling me to stand up to her. Are you sure you want to make such a significant change this close to the wedding? It might create more drama." "I'm done avoiding drama at the cost of doing what's right," she replied, a new resolve in her voice. "Besides, if Mom objects, She'll only make herself look worse after tonight. My phone buzzed with an incoming call. My father. I showed the screen to Cassandra. You should take it, she encouraged. He finally found his backbone tonight. That's a rare event worth acknowledging. I answered, putting the call on speaker. Dad? Abram. His voice sounded tired but clear. Are you still at the hotel? Yes, with Cassandra and Tyler. Good, I'm glad you're together. He paused. I want to apologize for tonight, and for years of standing by while your mother treated you unfairly. The directness of his apology caught me off guard. Thank you for saying that. I'd like to see you. Alone, if possible. There are things I need to tell you that are long overdue. I looked at Cassandra, who nodded encouragingly. I could meet you for breakfast tomorrow, I offered. 8 o'clock in the hotel restaurant. I'll be there. After ending the call, I turned back to Cassandra and Tyler. That was unexpected. Mom's probably livid right now, Cassandra said. Dad standing up to her even a little is unprecedented. The Wellingtons' intervention changed the power dynamics, Tyler observed. My parents don't tolerate that kind of behavior. They've built their reputation on integrity and family values, not just the appearance of them. I never imagined having allies in this fight, I admitted. I've been going it alone for so long. Cassandra's phone began buzzing repeatedly, texts flooding in. She glanced at it and grimaced. And here it comes. Mom's damage control operation is in full swing. She turned the screen so we could see. Cassandra, call me immediately. Your brother is trying to ruin your wedding. Your future in-laws don't understand our family dynamics. Don't let them influence you. Everything I've done has been for your happiness. Abram is being selfish as usual. Tyler read the messages and shook his head. Classic manipulation. Making herself the victim, reframing the narrative, creating urgency, and trying to isolate you from supporters. Are you going to respond? I asked. Cassandra turned off her phone entirely. Not tonight. For once she can wait for my attention instead of the other way around. The simple act of defiance seemed to strengthen her. I've spent my whole life jumping whenever she called, rearranging my priorities to suit hers, accepting her version of reality. Not anymore. Tyler put his arm around her. I'm proud of you. She leaned into him, then looked back at me. What about you, Abram? Are you really okay with being my man of honor? It's not just for show or to make a point. I want you there because you're my brother, and I love you despite everything. The sincerity in her voice touched something deep inside me. Then yes, I'd be honored, though I might need some crash course instructions on the duties. She laughed, the sound breaking the tension, mainly just standing there looking handsome and not losing the rings. Rachel will help with everything else. As they prepared to leave, Cassandra hugged me again. Thank you for not giving up on me even when I was too weak to stand up for you. We were both doing the best we could in a dysfunctional situation, I told her. But things can be different going forward. After they left, my phone lit up with notifications. News of the dinner confrontation had spread rapidly through the family network. Text messages from relatives I rarely heard from began appearing. Abram just heard what happened. That was long overdue. Call if you need anything. Uncle James. Your mother has been impossible for years. Glad someone finally said something. Aunt Diana. Wish I'd been there to support you. Mom's been pulling the same tactics with extended family for decades. Cousin Michael. The support was surprising and validating, but also raised questions about why these people had remained silent for so long. Still, it confirmed what I had begun to suspect. My mother's behavior wasn't just directed at me, and others had noticed but feared speaking up. As I prepared for bed, I felt an unusual sense of anticipation about tomorrow's breakfast with my father. For the first time in my adult life, I was approaching a family interaction with hope rather than dread. The morning sun filtered through the hotel room curtains as I finished knotting my tie. My father had been surprisingly forthcoming at breakfast, revealing decades of manipulation and control I hadn't fully understood. He explained how my mother had gradually isolated him from his own family, used financial leverage to maintain control, and subtly threatened social and professional ruin whenever he considered standing up to her. She convinced me that her way was always best for the family, he had admitted, stirring his coffee absently. And when I did question her treatment of you, she would remind me that her family's connections had built half our client list. Why tell me this now, I had asked. Because watching you stand up to her made me realize how much courage I've lacked. He replied, his eyes finally meeting mine directly. And because I don't want to lose my son forever. Now, as I prepared for the wedding, my phone buzzed with a text from Cassandra. Still good to be my man of honor. Last chance to back out before Mom arrives at the venue. I replied immediately, absolutely. See you there. I had barely set down my phone when it rang. My mother. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. Abram. Her voice was controlled, measured. We need to discuss today's arrangements. Good morning to you too, Mom. She ignored my pointed greeting. This man of honor nonsense has gone far enough. You've made your point. Now it's time to think about what's best for Cassandra. I am thinking about what's best for Cassandra, I replied calmly. She specifically asked me to stand beside her today. It's inappropriate and you know it. You're deliberately disrupting tradition to spite me. This isn't about you, Mom. It's about supporting my sister on her wedding day. She changed tactics, her voice softening slightly. Abram, I know we've had our differences. Perhaps I've been too hard on you at times, but surely we can put that aside and do things properly today. The attempt at reconciliation might have worked in the past, but now I recognized it for what it was, manipulation without genuine remorse. I'm going to be Cassandra's man of honor because that's what she wants. If you truly care about her happiness, you'll accept that. Her tone hardened again. If you insist on this public spectacle, don't expect things to go back to normal afterward. There will be consequences. There always are with you, Mom. The difference is I'm no longer afraid of them. I ended the call and took a deep breath. My hands were steady, no shaking, no anxiety. For once I felt completely certain about my place and my decisions. A knock at my door revealed Tyler already dressed in his tuxedo, ready for the big day man of honor. As I'll ever be, I replied, grabbing my jacket. How's Cassandra holding up? Strong, he said with evident pride. Your mother tried calling her multiple times this morning, but Cassandra told her she'd only discuss wedding logistics, nothing else. When Rebecca started in about the man of honor situation, Cassandra simply said, "That's not up for discussion," and hung up. That couldn't have gone over well. Tyler grinned. Let's just say the wedding planner has been instructed to keep your mother occupied with meaningless decisions about table arrangements to channel her control needs elsewhere. We shared a laugh as we headed down to the car. The drive to the Plaza Hotel was quick, the streets of Manhattan surprisingly clear for a Saturday morning. The historic venue gleamed in the summer sunlight, its elegance undeniable. Inside, wedding preparations were in full swing. Staff hurried about with floral arrangements. My $50,000 contribution on prominent display throughout the grand ballroom. I had to admit they were spectacular. Cascading white orchids, roses, and hydrangeas, with subtle greenery accents, exactly as Cassandra had described wanting. Maxwell Jenkins, the wedding planner, intercepted us near the entrance, tablet in hand and Bluetooth earpiece firmly in place. Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Wellington. Perfect timing. We have a slight situation with the seating chart. What kind of situation? Tyler asked. Maxwell lowered his voice. Your mother, Mrs. Mitchell, has been making adjustments. She's moved some guests and rearranged the head table configuration. Specifically, I prompted, already suspecting the answer. She's removed your place at the head table and created a separate small table nearby for you instead. Tyler's expression darkened. Put it back exactly as we approved yesterday, and station someone at the seating chart to prevent further unauthorized changes, I added. Maxwell nodded briskly. Already done. I've assigned my assistant Javier to guard it with his life. He gestured toward a young man standing vigilantly beside the display. Where is my mother now? I asked. In the bridal suite with the hair and makeup team. Mr. Mitchell, your father, is in the groom's lounge with Mr. Wellington's family. I'll check on Cassandra, I decided. Tyler, can you brief your parents on the situation? They've been great allies. We separated, and I made my way to the bridal suite, knocking softly on the door. Rachel, Cassandra's original maid of honor and college roommate, answered. She was already dressed in a flowing blue gown, her dark hair elegantly styled. Abram, thank God you're here. she whispered, pulling me into the room. "The Ice Queen is on a rampage." The spacious suite was a flurry of activity. Hairstylists and makeup artists worked on the bridesmaids while a photographer captured candid moments. In the center of it all, Cassandra sat in a white robe, her hair half done, looking tense, despite the festive atmosphere. My mother stood near the window, directing a florist on the exact placement of boutonnieres and corsages. She spotted me immediately, her expression souring. "This area is for the bridal party," she said coldly. "I am the bridal party," I replied, moving past her to Cassandra. "How are you holding up, sis?" Cassandra's face brightened visibly. "Better now that you're here. Did you see the flowers? They're perfect." "They are. You'll look even more perfect among them." My mother cleared her throat loudly. "Cassandra, the photographer needs some mother-daughter shots before you get into the dress." "In a minute, Mom. I'm talking to Abram. The schedule is very tight." "The schedule can wait 5 minutes," Cassandra interrupted firmly. The room fell momentarily silent, everyone sensing the power shift. My mother's lips pressed into a thin line, but she said nothing more, turning back to micromanage the florist instead. Rachel leaned in, whispering, "She's been like this all morning, trying to control every detail and create separation between you and Cassandra, but your sister isn't budging." "I never thought I'd see the day," I whispered back. Something changed after that rehearsal dinner. It's like she finally saw the manipulation for what it was. The morning proceeded with surprising smoothness, despite my mother's occasional attempts to reassert control. When it came time for the formal photos, she tried to arrange groupings that excluded me from key family shots. We should do one with just parents, and the bride she suggested to the photographer. And then one with Abram as man of honor, Cassandra added firmly. Actually, the photographer said, checking his shot list, "I have instructions for a full family photo, including the man of honor, then parents with bride, then bride with man of honor." My mother turned to Cassandra. "When did you change the photo list?" "Last night," Cassandra replied simply. "My wedding, my photos." As the ceremony time approached, guests began arriving. From a side room, I watched as Tyler's family greeted attendees warmly, while my mother maintained her perfect society smile, though the strain showed around her eyes. My father sought me out before taking his position. "How are you holding up?" "Surprisingly well," I admitted. "It helps having actual support for once." He nodded, regret evident in his expression. "I should have been that support all along." He straightened my boutonniere slightly. "I'm proud of you, son, for your success, your integrity, and for not becoming bitter despite having every reason to be." The simple words, "I'm proud of you," words I had longed to hear for decades, nearly undid me. I swallowed hard against the sudden emotion. "Thank you, Dad." The wedding coordinator appeared, signaling it was time to take our places. As I moved to the entrance of the ceremony space where Cassandra waited in her stunning gown, I caught sight of my mother's face. She stood near the front row, watching me take the traditional maid of honor position with barely concealed fury. But when the music began and Cassandra took my arm for the walk down the aisle, nothing else mattered. My sister squeezed my hand gently. "Ready to do this?" she whispered. "Absolutely," I replied, feeling a surge of protective love for her. "Let's show them what real family loyalty looks like." As we processed down the aisle, guests murmured in surprise at the unconventional choice, but Tyler beamed from the altar, his expression full of approval. When we reached him, I placed Cassandra's hand in his, then took my position beside her, instead of joining the groomsmen on the other side. Throughout the ceremony, I could feel my mother's glare, but it no longer held power over me. When the officiant asked who supported this union, I spoke the traditional response alongside my parents, my voice clear and confident. The moment Cassandra and Tyler were pronounced husband and wife, genuine joy filled the room. They sealed their union with a kiss, and applause erupted. As they turned to face their guests as a married couple, Cassandra reached for my hand as well as Tyler's, the three of us presenting a united front as we recessed down the aisle. It was a small gesture, but a meaningful one. Whatever came next with my mother, I knew I was no longer facing it alone. 6 months after Cassandra and Tyler's wedding, I sat in my office overlooking the Manhattan skyline, reviewing plans for my newest project. a mixed-use development that combined affordable housing with green space and community facilities. My firm had doubled in size, partly due to the publicity from the Thompson building, but also because I was no longer spending energy seeking approval I would never receive. My intercom buzzed. "Your sister and brother-in-law are here to see you, Mr. Mitchell. Send them in, Diane." Cassandra and Tyler entered, both looking relaxed and happy. Married life clearly suited them. "Sorry to drop in unannounced," Cassandra said, hugging me. "We were in the neighborhood and thought we'd kidnap you for lunch." Perfect timing. I could use a break from these blueprints. Over lunch at a nearby bistro, we caught up on the past few months. Tyler's firm was expanding into sustainable investment, partly inspired by my architectural focus. "How was Christmas in Aspen?" I asked. They had opted to spend the holidays skiing rather than attending the traditional Mitchell family gathering. Peaceful, Cassandra sighed contentedly. "First holiday season without drama in my entire life." "How's Mom taking the continued rebellion?" I asked, only half joking. Cassandra rolled her eyes. "Still attempting damage control within her social circle. She's telling everyone I'm going through a phase of independence that I'll outgrow once we start thinking about children." "Speaking of Mom," Tyler interjected, "have you seen the latest society page? She's launched a new charitable foundation supposedly supporting family reunification." "The irony is almost too perfect," I laughed. "Has she contacted either of you directly recently?" "Just the usual guilt-laden texts," Cassandra replied. "But they've decreased since I stopped responding to manipulation. It's like she's finally realizing her old tactics don't work anymore." The waiter refilled our water glasses as Cassandra continued. "I got together with Rachel last week. She said something interesting, that watching me set boundaries with Mom has inspired her to do the same with her own controlling mother." "Ripple effects," Tyler noted. "Standing up to toxic behavior doesn't just help you, it can empower others." That observation resonated deeply. Since the wedding confrontation, I had received messages from several cousins and even an uncle, all expressing similar struggles with my mother's manipulation over the years and appreciation for my public stand. "How's Dad doing?" I asked, taking a bite of my sandwich. "Better, I think," Cassandra said. "He started playing golf again, something Mom always discouraged because it took time away from networking. He mentioned possibly taking a trip to Scotland this summer, alone." "That's huge," I replied, genuinely surprised. Our father had never traveled without our mother in over 35 years of marriage. "He asks about you every time we talk," she added. "Seems genuinely interested in your projects." Our weekly lunches had become a tradition, my father making the effort to come into the city regularly. Our conversations were still sometimes awkward, 3 decades of emotional distance, not easily overcome, but they were improving. He had even visited my office twice, actually looking at my designs with interest rather than polite detachment. "What about you?" Tyler asked. "You seem different, more settled somehow." I considered this. "I think I finally stopped waiting for approval I'm never going to get. There's freedom in that." "Therapy," helping Cassandra asked gently. I nodded. After the wedding, I had finally sought professional help to address the years of emotional manipulation. Dr. Patterson says I'm a textbook case of the scapegoat child finding healthy autonomy. Apparently, there are whole books written about family dynamics like ours. "It helps knowing we're not alone in this," Cassandra said. "My therapist says the same thing, that the golden child, scapegoat dynamic is incredibly common in narcissistic family systems." Tyler squeezed her hand supportively. "The important thing is you both broke the cycle." And we had. In the months following the wedding, Cassandra and I had rebuilt our relationship without our mother's interference, discovering genuine common ground and mutual respect. We were becoming the siblings we should have been all along. "Oh, before I forget," I said, remembering the news I'd been saving. "Remember Jackson Powell, that developer from Boston I met at your wedding? The one who couldn't stop talking about sustainable urban renewal. How could I forget? You two disappeared for like an hour discussing building materials," Cassandra teased. "Well, he reached out last month about collaborating on a major revitalization project in South Boston. Mixed-income housing community spaces, local business incubators. Exactly the kind of project I've always wanted to do." Abram, that's amazing, Cassandra exclaimed. It gets better. The budget is substantial, and I'd be the lead architect with full creative control. It could be a career-defining project. You're going to take it right, Tyler asked. I signed the contract yesterday. They both congratulated me enthusiastically, genuinely happy for my success. There was no competition, no comparison, no subtle undermining, just sincere support. We should celebrate, Cassandra declared. Dinner this weekend? We could try that new place in Brooklyn you mentioned. Sounds perfect. As we finished lunch and prepared to part ways, Cassandra hugged me tightly. I'm so glad we found our way back to being real family, she whispered. Me too, sis. Walking back to my office, I reflected on the journey of the past 6 months. The confrontation at the rehearsal dinner had been painful but necessary, the catalyst for genuine change. I had finally recognized that I couldn't make my mother see my worth. I could only choose to see it myself. In my office, I found an email from a young architecture student who had read about my work and was requesting an informational interview. Something in his message reminded me of myself at that age, eager, uncertain, looking for guidance. Without hesitation, I wrote back offering to meet. The healing wasn't complete. Perhaps it never would be entirely. There were still moments of anger, still occasional dreams where I found myself back at that family dinner table, voiceless and invisible. But those moments no longer defined me. What I had learned through this journey was that family isn't just about blood. It's about respect, support, and unconditional acceptance. Sometimes the family we build matters more than the family we're born into. And sometimes standing up for yourself isn't just an act of self-preservation, it's an act of courage that can inspire others to do the same. I no longer needed my mother's approval to know my own worth. That realization was the greatest gift I could have given myself. Have you ever had to stand up to a family member who treated you unfairly? How did you handle it, and what did you learn from the experience? Let me know in the comments below, and if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear it. Remember, your worth isn't determined by someone else's inability to see it. Thank you for listening, and may you find the courage to define your own value.